Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC EduSet live lecture. Dear friends, as you know that we are carrying a series on microeconomics and today we would be talking on short run cost curves in the first half, whereas in the second half we would be talking on long run cost curves. And for this very discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar. Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar is a professor in Institute of Management Studies and Research, Maharishi Dayananda University, Rohtak. Dr. Gakkar has immense knowledge, immense experience. She keeps on exchanging information and knowledge. Lots of students are pursuing their PhD under her able guidance. She has authored numerous books and a number of her articles has been published in various reputed journals both at national and international level. So dear friends, let's welcome our guest Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar and let's try to understand more about short run cost curves, which we are going to take in first half, and in second half long run cost curves. Hello ma'am, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thank you, Geetika. Hello students. Today we are going to discuss about short run cost curves. The firm's cost functions are derived from the optimal input combinations and show the minimum cost of producing various levels of output. Cost is an important consideration in managerial decision making. That is why we should know about what are the types of costs. Mainly there are explicit cost and implicit costs. So explicit costs, these costs refer to the actual expenditures of the firm to hire, rent or purchase the inputs it requires in production. This include wages to hire labor, the rental price of capital, equipment and buildings, and the purchase of raw material and semi-finished products. Explicit costs are also called the accounting cost. Actually, explicit costs are those costs which are paid by an entrepreneur to the outsiders. And implicit costs refer to the value of inputs owned and used by the firm in its own production activity. So, implicit cost actually is the cost of factors of production owned by the entrepreneur himself. So, it will include the highest salary that the entrepreneur could earn in his or her alternative employment, say in managing another firm, and the highest return the firm could get from investing its capital in the most rewarding alternative use or rent out its land and buildings to the highest bidder than using them to itself. So, implicit cost will include the cost of all factors of production which belong to the entrepreneur himself, his salary plus rent on his own land plus interest on his own capital. So, all this leads to the implicit costs, and economic costs include both explicit cost and implicit cost. For finding out the profit, we should add both these costs to find out the total cost. In the short run, we have two types of cost: total fixed cost and total variable cost. Total cost is a combination of both these costs. So, what is total fixed cost? Just as the name suggests, this cost remains fixed. It does not change with the change in output. These costs include interest payments on borrowed capital, rental expenditure on leased plant and equipment, property taxes, and those salaries that are fixed by contract and must be paid over the life of the contract whether the firm produces or not. This total fixed cost is shown in table 1. Total variable costs are the total obligations of the firm per time period for all the variable inputs that the firm uses. With the increase in production, this cost goes on increasing. Variable costs include payments for raw materials, fuels, depreciation associated with the use of plant and equipment, most labor costs, excise taxes, etc. Total variable cost is 0 at 0 output. With increase in production, it goes on increasing. TVC is also shown in table 1. We can see in table 1, we have shown units of output in the first column. We have taken from 1 to 8 units of output. TFC is shown as, supposing this is rupees 10 and it remains 10, whether we are producing 1 unit, 2 units or up to any units, this cost remains constant. So far as TVC is concerned, it is 0 at 0 unit of output, but then as we increase the production, it goes on increasing. When we are producing only 1 unit, TVC is only 10 rupees. When we increase the production to 2 units, it rises to 18. When we are producing 3 units, it rises to 24. So it is rising from 24 to 28, then 32, 38, 46 and 62 when we are producing 8 units of output. So TVC is rising, and the total cost is addition of both total fixed cost and total variable cost. So we have added this 10 plus 0 is equal to 10. So even at 0 units of output, there is some total cost, and this goes on increasing with the increase in total output, as we have shown it that when we are producing 1 unit it is 20, when you are producing 2 units it has become 28 and it goes on rising, and when we are producing 8 units this total cost has become rupees 72. This is shown in the diagrams also. We have shown total fixed cost in figure 1. On x axis we are showing the units of output, on y axis we are showing the fixed cost. This fixed cost is constant at OR. Whatever may be the number of units of output, this remains constant. So TFC will be parallel to x axis. Then total variable cost. So according to the traditional theory, the firm has broadly an inverse S shape total variable cost. In the figure, units of output are on x axis and on y axis we have variable cost, and we have this inverse S shape TVC. Actually this is following the law of variable proportions. In the initial stages, the fixed plant is used more and more, the capacity of the fixed plant is utilized, so TVC increases at a decreasing rate. But when we reach the optimum input ratio between fixed and variable factor, then we get the minimum rise in TVC, but after that when we are having the over than optimum input ratio, this TVC goes on increasing at an increasing rate, because there is a shortage of the fixed factor and we are making more and more use of the variable factor. And by adding TFC and TVC, we have got total cost curve. So you see, this is the total fixed cost, this is the total variable cost curve, and by adding these two we get the total cost curve. The difference between TC and TVC vertically will be the same because it includes the fixed cost which is constant. Now what are the determinants of costs? The various factors on which the cost generally depends are: number 1, size of the output. So naturally if we increase the production, total cost also increases. Size of the plant. also determines the cost of production. If we are using a large size of the plant, fixed cost is very high, but if the production goes on rising, per unit cost will go on declining because of the large size of the plant. Prices of inputs also affect the cost of production. If the prices of inputs are rising, naturally the cost will also increase. Period under consideration, whether we have short period or whether we have long period. In the short period, costs rise more sharply. In the long period, plants can be made, new plants can be chosen, so the cost will not rise as much as it rises in the short period. Technology is also important in the determination of cost. If we have the latest technology or superior technology, cost per unit goes on declining. Level of capacity utilization also influences the cost of production. If the capacity is utilized properly or to the full extent, we know that there will be decline in per unit cost of production. Now we want to see what is the average cost, which is the per unit cost of output. So average cost actually is what? Average cost is equal to TC upon Q. So TC upon Q, or it can be total fixed cost upon output plus total variable cost upon output. And total fixed cost upon output is actually AFC, and total variable cost divided by output is AVC, or average variable cost. So we can see that average cost is the addition of average fixed cost plus average variable cost. So now we will see how the average fixed cost and average variable costs are derived. So AFC is equal to TFC upon Q. If you see in the table, you can see that when you divide total fixed cost by the units of output, you get the AFC. It goes on declining. When you are producing 1 unit is 10, then it becomes 5. So it goes on declining, and it appears that it will touch x-axis, but it will never be 0. So AFC goes on declining. And so far as AVC is concerned, we will derive it by TVC divided by the output, and this is also, firstly it is declining from 10 to 9, 9 to 8, 7, 6.4, 6.33, but afterwards it has started increasing, and average cost is the addition of AFC plus AVC. So we can add AFC and AVC and get the average cost of production. This is also for the first unit it is 20, then it has declining 14, 11.3, it goes on declining till the 7th unit of output, and after that it has started increasing. So you see that AFC is shown in figure 4, where we have shown it to be falling. For the first unit it was 10, and it goes on declining and declining with the increase in production. And average variable cost, in the table we have shown it is TVC divided by output, and in the figure we can show it as that we can derive it from TVC if we at any point we want to know what is the average variable cost. So I draw a line through the origin and touch at that point on TVC, and slope of that line will tell you what is the AVC. So different lines passing from the origin to the point on TVC has been drawn, showing what will be the AVC at different points. We see as we move from the output from OX1 to OX2, this line has also changed and the slope changes, it goes on declining till it reaches at output OXM when this line becomes tangent to TVC. Now here we have reached at the optimum input ratio. After that, the slope of this line passing through the origin and meeting TVC at that point goes on increasing. And so we will get AVC as of U shape. It is declining up to point C, and after that it has started increasing. And I have already told you that it is because of the law of variable proportions, that when in the initial stage variable factor is used more, fixed factor is used properly, average variable cost will go on declining. It will become minimum, and after that it has started increasing because we are now using more than optimum input ratio, and fixed sector is now scarce and variable sector has become in excess. And the combination of AFC plus AVC is average cost, or even from total cost we can again derive the ATC by finding the slope of the line passing from the origin and touching at the point, any point on TC at some particular level of output. So these different lines have been drawn, and the slope of these lines tells you what is the average cost of production. So till you reach the level of output XB, then you find that this average cost will go on declining, and after that it will go on increasing. And this AC has been shown in figure 6b. At level OXM, AC is the minimum, and after that it has started rising. So firstly AC goes on declining because both AVC and AFC are declining, and the AVC has started rising but still AFC is declining, so AC goes on declining. But after this output XM, what happens? That even AVC is rising at a higher speed, AFC is declining, but rise in AVC offsets the decline in AFC. So average cost goes on increasing. So we find that average cost is of U shape. Now we will see what is the marginal cost. Marginal cost is defined as the change in total cost which results from a unit change in output. Marginal cost naturally is equal to delta TC upon delta Q. MC of nth unit is equal to TC of n units minus TC of n minus 1 units. TFC of n units plus TVC of n units minus TFC of n minus 1 units plus TVC of n minus 1 units. So total variable cost of n units minus total variable cost of n minus 1 units will give you the marginal cost. So marginal cost is actually delta TC upon delta TQ, and we can show it graphically also, that we can draw the tangents at TC to find out the marginal cost at that point, and this will tell you what is the marginal cost. And the slope of these lines also, you see that they go on declining, but after the OX3 output it goes on increasing. SMC is also firstly declining and then it is rising. It is also of U shape. Now what is the relationship between ATC and AVC? AVC is a part of ATC while ATC is equal to AFC plus AVC. Average total cost is a broader term. Both ATC and AVC are U-shaped, and this reflects the law of variable proportions, because we know that in the law of variable proportion, firstly we have law of increasing returns to a variable factor, which leads to decline in average total cost. Then we reach at the optimum input ratio, and we have law of constant returns to a variable factor, where average cost is minimum, and after that we have law of decreasing returns to a variable factor, which leads to increase in the per unit average cost of production. Now, to show the relationship between all these curves, we are showing this in figure 8. On x axis we have taken units of output, on y axis we are taking the different costs. We know that AFC goes on declining because total fixed cost is constant and output is rising. SAVC, short run average variable cost, is of U shape, it is declining and then it is becoming maximum, it is rising. And SATC is the addition of both AVC plus AVC, it is also of U shape. Here you see that minimum of AVC comes at OX1, but the minimum of SATC comes at OX2. Why? Between OX1 and OX2, AVC is rising, but average fixed cost is declining, and this decline is more than the rise in AVC. So that is why this average total cost goes on declining till OX2 output. But after that, the rise in AVC is more than the fall in AFC, or you can say rise in AVC offsets the fall in AFC. So that is why this short run average cost goes on increasing after the point of output OX2. And your SMC is also of U shape, it is declining and then it becomes minimum, and after that it is increasing. So we have shown here that SMC is cutting AVC at its minimum point as well as SATC at its minimum point. Now we can show what is the relationship between ATC and MC, marginal cost. You can see from the figure that marginal cost cuts average cost at its minimum. Then when average cost is declining, MC is below it. No doubt it is rising, but it is less than the average cost. When average cost is rising, you see that marginal cost is above this, and you also see that the minimum of marginal cost comes earlier than the minimum of SAC. Minimum of SAC is at OX2, while it is minimum of SMC at a very less units of output. And another point is that when you want to know the equilibrium of the firm, we see what is the marginal cost and what is the marginal revenue. There are two conditions of equilibrium. One is marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, and the other is MC cuts MR from below. And for the profit and loss, we should see the average cost of production. If the average revenue is greater than the average cost, there are supernormal profits. If average revenue is equal to the average cost, then there are normal profits, and if AR is less than AC, then there are losses to the firm. Now we have seen what are the different types of costs in the short run, fixed costs and variable costs. So they are very important in decision making. How? We have seen that fixed cost will remain fixed even at zero output. So the entrepreneur should know that if supposing at any time in the short run price is not covering the fixed cost, he should go on producing or he should go on operating. Why? Because even if he stops producing, he will have to bear the fixed cost of production. So this tells us that the losses in the short run can be maximum up to the fixed cost. But the entrepreneur or the firm should see to it that the price is such which must cover the variable costs, because the variable costs become zero even at zero output and they will rise with rise in production. So if the firm is not getting the variable cost, so then the firm will definitely stop producing the product. But that show that variable costs are definitely to be covered by the price which is prevailing in the market. Otherwise there is no use of producing the commodity. So losses can be there only in the short period. So this tells us, and we have seen that marginal cost, which is the addition made to the total cost by changing or by increasing the output by one more unit, that is the marginal cost. And for finding out the equilibrium of the firm has to see that marginal cost becomes equal to the marginal revenue. Only that point will be the equilibrium point, and after that point marginal cost must rise than the marginal revenue. Thank you, students. Dear students, in this session I am going to tell you about the long run cost curves. You know, long run is that period of time in which all factors are variable. So there will be no fixed costs in the long run, only the variable cost. So long run cost will be 0 at 0 output and it will go on rising with the rise in output. In the long run, what you see that the most important of all, long run is a planning horizon. In the long run, you can go in for any size of the plant which will give you the lowest per unit cost of production. And different sizes of the plants are available. So we will see that actually whenever a person or an entrepreneur is operating or a firm is doing production, actually it is doing in the short run, but the planning is for the long run. He can decide which plant he can choose which will give him the lowest per unit cost of production. If he wants to produce more, he can go in for a large size of the plant. If he wants to produce less, he can go in for a small size of the plants. So sizes of the plants can be chosen by the entrepreneur. So we will see that we can derive the long run average cost from different short run average cost curves. We have shown this in figure 1. Supposing with the technology available, there are 3 sizes of the plants which are SAC1, which is the plant of the shortest size. Then another plant gives SAC2 and that is of medium size, and SAC3 is the plant of the large size. Now these 3 plants are available and the firm can decide what is the output to be produced and which plant must be chosen. In the figure, we have shown output on x-axis and average cost on y-axis. Now you can see here, if the producer wants to produce OA units of output, so he should choose SAC1. Why? Because here the average cost or per unit cost is AL, and if he chooses the second plant for this output, this cost will be AH. So AH is much greater than AL, and you can also see if we choose the largest size of the plant, then naturally it will be even more than AH. So it will be better to choose plant SAC1 if the firm wants to produce the output OA, and up to OB output it is good to be on SAC1. No doubt OB unit of output can also be produced with SAC2 plant and the cost is the same. But if output is more than OB and supposing it is OC, then what do you see? That SAC2 plant should be chosen. Why? Because here the cost per unit of output is less in SAC2 while it is CJ if he operates on SAC1. So it is better to have the second or the medium size of the plant if the output is to be done, and that is the level OC, and till OD this plant can be operated upon, which is the medium size plant SAC2. But if the output is to be done more than OD, then you find that you will get a cost which is higher on SAC2 or SAC1, but it will be minimum on SAC3. So this way we find that in LAC or in long run we have the opportunity to choose any size of the plant which will give the lowest per unit cost of production. Now in the long run, actually we know that is a planning device. It is a solid scalloped curve, and this curve shows the long run average cost of producing each possible level of output. This curve is frequently called the envelope curve also. Actually LAC is drawn from different SACs. Every point on LAC is tangent with some short run average cost curve. So there are infinite number of SACs on this LAC which is of U shape, and now we will see whether this tangency point of the SAC with LAC is the minimum of SAC or not. Where the LAC is minimum, to the left of it every tangency point of SAC with the LAC comes earlier, but the minimum of SAC comes later on. You can see in SAC1 here the tangency point is at G, but the minimum is at F. This comes later on. So what does this suggest? This suggests that the firm is not fully utilizing this SAC1. There is underutilization of this plant, or there is no efficient utilization of the plant. Why? Because this can go to the other plant and can reduce the cost of production. Where there is efficient utilization but cost is more, when it can have another plant which will give the less cost. So after G it goes on an other SAC. We have shown here 5 SACs while there may be infinite SACs. Here again in SAC2 the tangency point comes earlier and the minimum point comes later on. And to the right of the minimum of LAC, this side, what happens? Here the tangency point comes later on and the minimum point comes earlier. So there is over optimum use of the plant. If it is producing at the optimum point, cost is more because it can be on another plant. So there is more than optimum, or you can say there is over utilization of the plant because it gives the least possible average cost. So you can see that whether it is SAC3, SAC4 or SAC5, tangency point has come later while the minimum point has been earlier. So there is more than optimum utilization of the plant. So it is only at the minimum of LAC that SAC is also minimum. So only at output Q there is optimum or full utilization of the plant, but in the early output less than OQ, then there is underutilization of the plants, and if the output is more than OQ, then there will be over utilization or over optimum use of the plants. So you see here that the LAC is of U shape. Now why this is of U shape? LAC falls in the beginning because of the internal and external economies of scale, which we have already done, that internal economies of scale accrue to a firm when its scale of production rises, it achieves real economies, pecuniary economies in the form of production economies, marketing economies, financial economies, transport and storage economies, and external economies also accrue to the firms because of the increase in the size of the industry as a whole, and they accrue to the all firms. The firms get benefits of concentration, decentralization, and benefits of information are there, and these economies of scale lead to fall in per unit cost of production or lead to increasing returns to scale. That is, that if output is increased and that then input has not to be increased in the same proportion, so per unit cost goes on declining. So that is why LAC is declining in the initial stages. Then not only the economies of scale, there are economies of scope which lead to the falling LAC. What are these economies of scope? These economies of scope refer to the reduction in cost that occurs when a firm produces two or more than two commodities together rather than a single one. For example, Hindustan Lever does not produce only bathing soap Lux, but a whole range of detergents and cleaning products. This is quite cost effective and lowers the overall unit cost of products. You know, these days because of the competition, big firms are not only producing one type of product, they are producing variety of products. They can be substitutes, they can be complementary goods, or they can be even neither complementary nor substitutes, independent goods, but that leads to decrease in the cost of production of the products produced. You can see that the different industries, big industries like Tata, Birla, Reliance, they are producing a large number of products, and that is why they get the long run economies of scale and the per unit cost goes on declining. But these economies of scale do not continue forever, because after a point there will be diseconomies of scale, again internal diseconomies as well as external diseconomies. Internal diseconomies will be because of the increase in the size of the firm, increase in its scale of operation, there will be problems in management, there will be problems in marketing or scarcity of raw material, borrowing costs may rise, financial diseconomies, storage and transport diseconomies. So various type of diseconomies start accruing to a firm when its size becomes too large. It becomes uncontrollable. The cost of factors of production rises. So as well as external diseconomies which are due to increase in the size of the industry as a whole. The economies get converted into diseconomies of concentration, diseconomies of decentralization, etc. There is more pollution, there is more cost of raw material, or the cost of every thing needed for production goes on rising. So that is why we get decreasing returns to scale, or we can say output does not increase in the same proportion as the input is rising, or to have the same percentage rise in output we have to increase the inputs by a greater percentage. So this leads to increase in the cost of production, and we get the rising part of long run average cost. And at the output, or at the point where economies of scale cancel the diseconomies of scale, or they are equal to each other, they balance each other, at that point there is the minimum of average cost, and we get the constant returns to scale, or LAC is minimum. There is the optimum utilization of the plant. So this way we can show why the LAC curve is of U shape. Now we will see the long run derivation of the marginal cost. We have already seen that marginal cost is actually the addition made to the total cost by producing one more unit of output. This is equal to delta TC upon delta TQ. What is the change in total cost and what is the change in total output. And this marginal cost is also derived from the long run average cost and short run average cost curves. How? We can show this in figure 3. In figure 3 we have shown output on x axis and cost is on y axis. This LAC is of U shape, and we draw the 3 SACs, SAC 1, SAC 2 and SAC 3, and we know MC cuts AC at its minimum. So we will draw SMC of the 3 plants. SMC 1 cutting SAC at its minimum point, SMC 2 cutting the minimum of SAC 2, and SMC 3 cutting the SAC 3's minimum point. Now we see when the output is OA, here the SAC is tangent to LAC and AH is the average cost. But what is the marginal cost? We have to see what is the relevant short run marginal cost at this point. It is up to AN, where SMC is cutting this line of output. At OA this is AN, this is the first point. Here this is the marginal cost. When the output is OB, BQ is the average cost, and the SMC2 is also passing through this point. This is the tangency point as well as the minimum point. So BQ is also the LMC at this point. This is the relevant SMC, and when the output is OC, your average cost is LAC is CM, and the SMC is cutting the output on this line at K. So, CK is the LMC at this point. So, we join these points H, this N, Q and K. By joining these points N, Q and K, we get the long run marginal cost curve. So, what you see again, LMC is of U shape. Firstly, it is declining because there is better use of the variable factor, its marginal productivity is rising, and at Q it becomes minimum, but after that it is rising because we have reached the more than in optimum input ratio, and marginal cost goes on increasing because of the falling marginal productivity of the variable factors. So, and relationship between LAC and LMC is also same as was of SAC and SMC. When LAC is falling, LMC is below it. LAC is being cut by LMC at its minimum point, and when LAC is rising, LMC is above it. Now, we should also know what is the learning curve. The learning curve is an important modern concept according to which cumulative experience in the production of product over time increases efficiency in the use of inputs such as labor and raw materials, and thereby lowers the cost per unit of output. This curve is a modern concept, and this increases the efficiency in the use of inputs such as labor and raw materials. So, what you see that long run this learning curve is also of, firstly it is declining and then it is almost becoming constant, and this is due to the, you can say ki when we go on producing the same, we are doing the same work again and again, this leads to the experience of the firm and there is increase in the efficiency, and this is known as the learning curve. Generally, we have said that LAC is of U shape, but the modern economists say that LAC is also of L shape, and you know in L shape what happens, that it is firstly declining and then naturally it is becoming parallel to X axis. So, what happens that when the output is expanded through increase in the plant size and associated variable factors, cost per unit falls rapidly due to economies of scale. So, there is a difference in the learning curve and L-shaped long run average cost curve. Learning curve is because of the increase in the efficiency, and because production is done the same, and that is, there is no other advantage. Production is the same, but that is done over and over again. So, this leads to efficiency. But in the long run average cost curve, which is L shaped, it is because of the economies of scale. So, this was about the long run and short run cost curves, which are of great relevance to managers. So, they can take the proper decisions which output should be done and which plant should be chosen, so that the average cost is minimum and they can get the maximum of profits. Thank you.
With this note, thank you ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us a very productive session. Dear friends, we would meeting again very soon and would be talking more on microeconomics. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you ma'am. Thank you so very much.